Hello everyone and welcome to this new channel. And I created this just because I often watch TV alone, and when you watch TV with somebody else after you've watched something, it's so natural just to turn to the side and get their feedback and interact and talk about your favourite moments. And so I thought I would create this to almost have some kind of friend or company while we're watching our TV shows. So anything you've watched on here, it would be great just to, as an outlet for me as well, just to talk about my favourite moments and what I enjoyed about the movie or TV show, and maybe that will resonate with you as well. And so it's so easy for us to be isolated or even lonely, and I thought this may help with that, and it would also help myself as well. So the first movie I want to talk about is called Uncut Gems, and I watched this a couple of nights ago, and ideally I want to record these fairly soon after watching something, so things are fresh in my mind and I can talk about my reactions as well. And so because it was a couple of days ago, it doesn't feel as fresh, and my memory is certainly getting worse as well. So let's just start from the beginning, from what I remember. I put off watching this movie for a while because often I just didn't get the vibe that it will be my type of movie, and after watching it, I'm still not sure if it was my type of movie, even though it was really intense and it was a really well-made film. Quite often it can take a long time to warm up to a movie or TV show sometimes, and sometimes you have to force yourself to watch the first 10 minutes, or if a friend pushes you to turn it on, that can help as well. And so I remember just the intensity from the get-go, the music, it seemed the way it was filmed, it was very, almost had a theme to it in regards to the darkness, and it reminded me a little bit of Heat, or Michael Mann's Heat, and the almost serious tone of the movie reminded me of that as well. And lots of people have complimented Adam Sandler on his dramatic acting, and I certainly agree. He's, even watching his interviews about the film, you can tell he's really dedicated and really puts in the work for his craft. So that's something I immediately picked up on, as you see him walking through the jewelry district in New York, and there's almost a shot of him going overhead as he's walking, and suddenly it pans around and he's coming out of the elevator, and generally I felt really sorry for Howard. You can see he was just stuck in a really difficult cycle. That's not to say, some or a lot of it was his own making, but I could always empathise with him. He's always trying to help himself, but in order to do so, he has to, do even more dangerous things, such as exchanging Kevin Garnett's ring. He's using that for as like almost a down payment to look after um, as he tries to get that stone, and but he's in so much debt that he has to pawn that just to get some money. But instead of paying his creditors, as you know, he places more bets, trying to get ahead. And I just, just such a chaotic life, but you almost felt like he was comfortable with it. He was obviously, I'm sure he's thrilled. Part of the lifestyle, there was a thrill to it, a high of living life on the edge, and I felt Howard was really alive. He was, yes, he was, running from this person and that person, but there was something about him that was just turned on to the max. And I think he enjoyed that as well as the downsides to that. He really enjoyed the, almost a heartbeat of life. He was making deals, and always had belief in himself as well. And that goes all the way to the last scene where he finally gets the big break. He makes so much money, and then that shocking gunshot, which I did not expect. I almost jolted a bit in my seat, and then he shot, his boss, I guess, his trying to think how he's related in the movie to Howard. Is he an uncle? I think he's an uncle. Yes, Howard's uncle, and he shoots him, and then they just get the money, and it's a very empty ending, but it's a fitting ending as well. It's just as chaotic as Howard was in the whole of the movie. And one of my favourite characters was trying to think of her name now. I think her real name's Julia Fox, I think. Howard's, I guess, mistress. She's always like loyal to Howard, and there was one really difficult scene when there's actually a couple, I think, when she's selling coke to one of the musicians in the club, and she's like in I don't know if it's a toilet or in a cupboard, and then Howard not bangs on her door, and then she comes out with this person, and she tells him, I wasn't doing anything, I was just selling him the product. And I'm not actually sure if she was doing something, because the camera cut away and it went to Howard banging on a door, and so either she was either kissing him, or just maybe the man was touching her, or she was allowing him to, just to get the deal. But Howard obviously thought about the worst, that you're cheating on me, and of course he was upset, but he was so harsh with her as well, and I really felt for her. And especially the next day, I think, when she tried to come in and tell Howard she's sorry, or I think she had like a smoothie, and then Howard kind of smacked that, and it went all over her, and I really felt for her then. But even after all of that, she was still coming to work, and then when there was a scene when she came into the office, this is after Howard, I think, got punched in the face, when he's trying to haggle with his uncle, or explain that he's doing this big deal, and I'll be able to, he'll be able to pay his uncle back, and he was just so vulnerable in that scene. And she came in, and you can just almost, I felt it was a really lively scene, really emotional, and the chemistry between them was really strong. And she was comforting him, and he was crying, he was just at rock bottom, and then suddenly things quickly turned around, and then she came alive as well, because Howard, the deal was coming into place to, yeah, I wonder what your thoughts are about the movie. Um, lots of people love Adam Sandler and his comedies, um, and he's also done some dramatic movies earlier on as well. I think there's a movie called, let me just, I'm on my laptop here, so I was just on IMDb for Adam Sandler. Can't remember what the movies are called, but he's done a few dramatic movies. I think one of them's called Punch Drunk. I think it's one of his earlier movies that I haven't seen, but maybe I'll try and check that out as well. But wow, and at the end it's kind of mixed feelings. I was obviously, sad that Howard died in the end. He wasn't able to walk off in the sunset with the money, and yeah, it was just a really dark ending. But again, I'd say it's a fitting ending as well because of the tone of the whole movie. Howard's just living in a really dangerous world, a dangerous lifestyle, and yeah, it seemed to make sense that, even though he got, his uncle the money, and there's always uncertainty. And in this instance, it was one of, his uncle's heavy men that, lost his temper and shot Howard. And you can tell how out of place it was because Howard's uncle was shocked. He was, telling the person off and saying, it's putting it lightly, he was, chastising the guy, saying, what the hell have you done? Because I don't think his uncle would have ever really killed Howard, but, he would have gone to great lengths to get his money back. And it was just, it just seemed like everyone had had enough, including the man with the gun. Can't remember his name now, and don't know if it's worth getting the cast up, but maybe I'll try and be a bit better prepared for other movies and shows I talk about. But yeah, it was just, again, I'm not sure if it's my type of movie because of the violence and the high intensity of it as well. And usually those kind of movies about, whether it's, those sort of illegal activities, those, pulse-hitting movies where it's always, building momentum, and often I don't watch those as much. But I found I connected with this in regards to the character of Howard, and I felt like there's an extra layer to this sort of genre, because usually it's great action and great plot, but often I don't connect with the characters as much, but with Howard I did, and I think I really got something out of it. And okay, so this is the first upload I'm doing, and hopefully I'll get better at talking about the movies. I feel quite nervous talking about them right now, and I've got this new microphone I'm recording on, so I'm hoping the volume is okay, and it's kind of a bit of learning on a job. So as I record more of these, hopefully there'll be less, things will be more smoother. Maybe I can just talk about other shows I'm watching at the moment that I may upload other YouTube uploads about them, whether it's just recapping or talking about the episode or talking about the season if I've watched it quite quickly. But I'm currently watching Homeland. It's definitely one of my favourite shows, I would say. It's one of those, I find with TV shows, there's almost like the elite or the, cream of the crop TV shows. Like for me, it would be Billions or Homeland, or in the good old days, 24, Dexter, Prison Break, and those kind of high rating TV shows. And then there's the, Breaking Bad will be up there as well. And then there's kind of the lower sort of TV shows, like I often watch the medical dramas, like New Amsterdam. Obviously, I was a big fan of ER, but those kind of shows that are not, they're great shows, but they're not, I guess, think of the word to describe it. Maybe these, the top shows, the more budgeted shows, the Hollywood shows, such as 24 or Dexter, where Homeland as well, where it's a bit more of a unique show and less of a soapy sort of show where there's the familiar setting of a hospital or something like that. And so I'm watching Homeland. I'm watching Better Call Saul. I'm enjoying that as well. And I find it's a bit mixed with Better Call Saul. I find some episodes I enjoy, and other episodes seem a little bit slow. And yes, it's not as I find not all of the characters have great arcs as Breaking Bad did, but I'm still very much enjoying the show. And maybe I may record an episode about that, because there's the latest episode's out today. So after I've watched it, I may record another audio about that. So I'm watching New Amsterdam, watching Grey's Anatomy, and I started watching Grey's Anatomy just because there was no more ER episodes to watch. I never really, when they were airing together, I never really watched Grey's Anatomy because there was ER, and I've always enjoyed that show more, and I enjoyed the intensity of ER a bit more than the emotional aspect of Grey's Anatomy. Is obviously more based on relationships and emotions, where ER it is as well, but it's also based on for me it just a bit deeper on the characters and what makes them tick in regards to their job and how it affects their lives to be doctors and nurses. I'm watching a show called Manifest, and again it's another mixed show. It took me a while to get into it, and then I think it's the first season where it built up momentum, and then the second season I'm kind of hanging in there, and it's more because it just doesn't feel like my type of show. I've just not connected with it. So I find that TV shows are not just kind of good or bad. Everything's up to interpretation, and a show or movie may be made really well, but it just may not be your type of movie. Like, for example, Star Wars, I'm sure it's a great sci-fi, and I'm probably offending fans by trying to describe it, but for what it is, it's just not my type of movie. I don't usually watch those type of movies, but I can appreciate that it's great for what it is. So what else am I watching? I'm watching a show called Chesapeake Shores, which is a really easygoing show. It's just a show about a family in a small town, and I find it's refreshing to have a show like that that's not as intense, that's almost an easy watch. It's quite safe, I find, as well, and sort of almost the opposite to Uncut Gems, where it's a thrilling ride. But okay, so that's my brief thoughts on Uncut Gems, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.